So I'd first like to get your feelings on the word blaxploitation itself.
Well, first of all, I never understood what it meant. You know, it was a terminology created by the white press to try to describe a film that had a black actor with black subject matter. So I never understood what it meant. I mean, who was being exploited? Certainly not me. My checks cleared. And the people who worked for me, their checks cleared. So who the hell was being exploited? The people went to the show because they enjoyed what they were seeing. So it was a terminology created by the white press and grasped by the black media. So part of the downfall of the movies was also the black acceptance of this terminology. I mean, you can't really say there was a downfall, because when they stopped making the movies were still making money. They just were not making enough money for the majors. The majors, I mean, Universal's light bill is 10 million bucks, and our films were making, grossing 10 to 15 million. That was the biggest gross was like 15 million, which is probably Shaft. And so they just weren't making enough money for the majors to keep interested in. They wanted 50 and 40 and 60 million dollar grosses, and that $10 million, 15 million just was not enough for them. So it wasn't really a downfall. It was just they just weren't making enough money, you know.
Well, your career has managed to keep going, and part of that's probably attributed to the fact that you wrote, produced, directed. What motivated you to
Intelligence.
Okay.
Intelligence. I mean, it has nothing to do with. I mean, I don't need pats on the back to make my life survive. I understood usury when I came into the movie business. I understood it from being a pro football player. When you get hurt, they drag you off the side of the field and they replace you with somebody else, and they give you 2 weeks to get ready, and if you don't get ready, you've lost your job. So I understood usury. And I also understood that people make more money off of me than me. Something is wrong with that picture. So when I came into the motion picture business, I had a whole plan, I had a whole concept about marketability. If you understand my football career, you understand that I understood marketability long before anybody else did. I was the first guy to wear white shoes. I was the first really controversial football player, the Hammer. The league fined me $100 a game for wearing white shoes because they said I was breaking the dress code of professional football. So they fined me $100 a game. Because I was called the Hammer, I had little pads on my arm that had an artist paint the hammer on them, and so they fined me $100 a game for advocating violence to the league. But it doesn't really matter, because when people came to the game, they knew I was there. They knew that number 24 wore white shoes and he played defensive back. So you have to understand the whole picture, the total picture. People who have favorite football teams never know the defensive backs. They know who run the ball, catch the ball, throw the ball. They can't name the defensive backs. But where I played, they named the Hammer, Williamson, the guy to wear white shoes. So I understood marketability. So when I came into the industry, I was giving them an opportunity to make me a marketable star. And they did, rather quickly, faster than I thought they would, because when I came into show business, it took me 3 weeks to get a series. I was Dan Carroll's boyfriend on the Julia show. While I was there, I did the movie MASH. And then I said, this is easy. I mean, anybody can do this. I said, it's no big deal here. So then I came up with an idea. I said, let me make a Western. So I went to Paramount. Now this is all within 2.5 years. I went to Paramount and I said, I want to make a black Western. And they said, what do you want to call it? And I said, I want to call it The Legend of Nigger Charlie. And they about jumped out of the window. They didn't understand the terminology. They didn't understand I wanted to use this dynamic impact when people would see it. We took a big billboard out in New York, and all it had was me with short sleeves, with a gun, and it said, Nigger Charlie is here. Okay, so it was this impact and this concept of marketability that made me understand that sooner or later, what was happening in the 70s was going to run out. So when it started in the 70s, when I started 1970, by 73, I had formed my own company, Po' Boy Productions. And the reason I call it Po' Boy is so that if you ever work for me, don't ask for no money, because I got no cash to pay you. So by then, 73, I had already did Black Caesar, Hell Up in Harlem, and The Legend and Soul of Nigger Charlie. So I became a marketable commodity. People knew who I was. They knew my name on the marquee. So then after 73, I took myself away from Hollywood. So I said, from then on, if you want a Fred Williamson movie, you got to come to Fred Williamson. And that's how I started doing my own films and staying in the genre that I wanted. You have to look at the whole picture. I mean, the total picture is important. You have to understand that in the early 70s and in the late 60s, they were still sticking dogs on black people. I mean, more than 8 people, more than 10 blacks on a corner constituted a riot. So it was time to call out the dog squad. So there was no way for the black public to fight back. They had no way to fight back without getting themselves into serious trouble. So what we brought to them at that time was a guy who won the fight. When the smoke cleared, we were still standing. You know, there weren't no butlers, there weren't no porters, there weren't no shoe shine guy. And when I did a shoe shine guy in Black Caesar, I was killing somebody with the shoe shine box. I mean, so we had images that were needed and necessary for that particular time and for that particular era. It's unfair to compare that picture with where we are today, because the times have changed. You know, we don't need to make get whitey pictures anymore, because that's what we needed at that time. We needed a way to fight back. We needed to pay back whitey. So we did that. We went through that evolution. So now we want to stand up just as winners and as fighters, and because now I take down anybody, man. I mean, I'm equal opportunity employee. I beat up white people, yellow people, pink people, black people, purple people, no matter what color they are. If you bad and you're in my movie, you're going down. I'm gonna be the only one standing. I'm gonna be the last one to go down in my movie, as is Stallone, as like Schwarzenegger, all of them. You know they're not gonna get killed in the movie, so you have to find a clever way to beat up the bad guy and leave you standing at the end of the movie. So, I mean, the whole evolution has changed. So now, you know, I have maintained my image, which has been very hard and difficult to do, because I turned down a lot of work for them wanting me to play subservient roles or go to jail right away or be the crook and the bad guy who gets locked up at the end of the movie. But I said, you know, that's not what I want to do. That's not my thing. You know, I want to be like Schwarzenegger. I want to be like Clint Eastwood. I want to be like Charles Bronson. I want to be the guy that takes the bad guy out. So there's been a big change. If somebody is working, I don't really care who hires me, as long as he's letting me do what I want to do. As long as I'm not doing something that's destroying my image or going against what I believe in as a person. It doesn't really matter who hires me. As long as I'm getting paid and doing what I want to do, it doesn't really matter, because every time I do a job, I get more stronger, I get more powerful, and then I can start really doing the things that I want to do. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter what you do. Somebody's not going to like everything that you do anyway, man. Especially on our people are strange when it comes to that anyway. You know, we rarely stroke each other. We always have a lot of negative things to say about each other. Rarely do you hear a group stroke an individual. You know, we always got to find something bad to say about them, something negative. I mean, if we're going to do that, do it in private. Don't do it in public. You know, and that's one of our problems as a black race.
Yeah, it's always been airing our dirty laundry in front of everybody, and just making things a lot harder to overcome.
As they always say, man, it's only crowded at the bottom. It ain't crowded at the top.
How do you think that your career has helped to change and influence the current wave of filmmaking that's going on? And what sort of changes do you think need to be made for people to take more power back, like you've done?
It hasn't influenced it at all. It hasn't influenced it at all, because as blacks come into the business, they grasp it like it's theirs. They grasp it like it's never been done before. All the new directors and producers come in, it's like they've discovered the black market. I mean, so they don't take from the past. They don't reach back and bring people who've been through it all and try to gain anything for them. You know, they accept it like it's theirs. So it really hasn't really changed that much. You know, I mean, far as actors and talent is concerned, you see a lot more comedy, but it's the same old, same old. All it is an extension of comedy. I mean, if I saw any black families acting the way I see some of these black families acting on the sitcoms, I'd call the police on them, man. I don't know any black families act like that. But that's what is an easy sell, because it doesn't offend anybody. It's safe, it's middle of the road comedy, and that's fine. Let them do it, but that's not what I'm going to succumb to, and you'll never see me doing any stuff like that.
It seems to me that the power is going to lie when more black filmmakers decide to take the route that you've taken.
The power in anything is unity. If they would, first of all, the reality check is this: white Hollywood don't need any black actor at all. They can make films that would gross $100 million without any black actor. Now, if they want to make a film and make it $120 million, then they give you Snipes. And they say, okay, with Snipes opposite a white star, now it's going to make 120 or 115. So we give you Denzel, now it's going to make 130. We give you Danny Glover, now it's going to make 135. Now, what they don't understand is these three guys have this much power to bring $20 million gross extra or $30 million gross, why don't they unite? Why don't they form their own company and make their own product and do their own thing? Let Hollywood do what they want to do, and they can do what they want to do. And if Hollywood adhere to their rules and give them the $20 and $30 million that they give everybody else, then okay, fine. But if they don't need Hollywood. They don't understand that they don't need Hollywood. Hollywood needs them more than they need them to bring that gross up to $120, $130 million. All we have to understand is unity, man. We, as a people, again, I'm into this people thing because we don't help each other, man. We don't reach back, And if they united and understood that, the industry would grow real fast as far as blacks were concerned. Of course, you can be separate but equal. I mean, you can work together. You can still be separate. Doesn't mean that you have to ignore them. Doesn't mean you don't ever have to work in another film with a white star again. But you can certainly be separate and have the same power that they have, because you can only live in one house at one time and drive 6 cars. I mean, if you know how to drive 6 cars at one time, you're a better guy than I am. Probably the most exciting thing I did was make a film called The Legend of Nigga Charlie, because I'd stand back and watch the shock on people's face. I watched Paramount, who tried to explain what their movie they were making that year at a Beverly Hills party, and that the film only cost $600,000 and made $30 million. And they got to ask him, "What's your top grossing picture of the year, Frank?" And it was Frank Yablans at the time. Well, it was a movie called Little Charlie, So that was all. I mean, I loved that because, I was going against the grain, and it was making money, and it was being successful, and watching them squirm was very pleasant to me. So putting that across was probably the most exciting thing in my career that I've done. One of the criteria when I first came into Hollywood that I wanted to do, because I always perceived myself as a he-man. So I wanted to star the movie just like all the guys that I watched. I watched Humphrey Bogart, George Raft, Edward G. Robinson, all those guys being heroes. So when I came to Hollywood, that's what I wanted to do. But then they started offering me all kind of weird roles, and then I said, "Listen, you're not listening to me. I got 3 rules. 1, you can't kill me. 2, I got to win all the fights. And 3, I want the girl at the end of the movie." They didn't listen. I started making my own movies, and I damn sure ain't gonna die in my own movie. And if I want the girl, I just write down at the end line in the screen, "The hammer gets the girl." See?
Great. That's it.